I watched Ronda Rousey's interview on SportsCenter, and it bugged the crap out of me. And the reason why it bugged the crap out of me is because it seemed like the fight was made out of desperation on the side of Carano. Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 78 of Bando's Breakdowns. My name is Zain Bando. Happy Friday to you all. Greatly appreciate you guys checking this one out as per usual, whether you are on the audio or video only segments of this program. Again, thanks for tuning in. It is Friday afternoon, Friday, February 20th, 2026. We have a lot on tap this week, and we're going to go a little bit longer. We were under 30 minutes this past week, which is a rarity for this show, but we're going to do our best to get back to a regular pace and so much more. Before we get started with anything, though, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Would be greatly appreciated if you guys did so, as we are slowly but surely approaching 4,000 watch hours. We hit the 1,000 subscriber mark a couple months ago. Our views are starting to fluctuate a little bit, so if you guys could check us out for the watch hours, that would be greatly appreciated, because once we hit 4,000 watch hours, we can do some cool stuff, giveaways, prizes, potentially merchandise, and so much more. So just wanted to check that out from that perspective, and be sure to tell your friends to like, comment, and subscribe. Would be greatly appreciated. You can add me to your RSS feeds. You can listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcast. That would be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, iHeartRadio, and any other audio-only platform on the planet. If it's an audio-only platform, we're probably on it, which means this show is on it, and every other show across the network is also on it as well. You can also check me out across my personal social medias that are scrolling across the screen outside of just at Bando's Breakdown. If you want me and me only, you can follow me at Zanbando99. That's at ZAINBANDO 99. And for those of you who have never seen me before, I'm a sports journalist and an ETV Network co-host for several different publications. This includes the Sporting News. This also includes on Sports Illustrated, where I'm a contributor to several sites, including Ohio State on Sports Illustrated, Cleveland Browns on Sports Illustrated occasionally, MMA Knockout on Sports Illustrated, Dallas Wings on Sports Illustrated, and whatever else I may be forgetting. I've been in the On SI vertical since October of 2023, so I've bounced around between a few different sites. In addition to that, though, you can also check out my work over at Field Level Media, as I write deadline-driven recaps for nearly every UFC event. So as soon as the main event is over, within literally the hour, you'll be able to read my thoughts on the main card, what happened, who won, who lost. That's a weekly occurrence for me as well. And then, of course, I do all of this stuff over here. So combined, living the very, very remote life, if you will, as a independent freelance sports journalist that truly, in my humble opinion, and there is going to be some transition. I'm not ready to really speak about what that may look like. It's going to be down the pipeline here. I can already sense it a little bit, but I'm not ready to go into where or what or anything. But what I can say is things are going to be expanding. You're going to be seeing a lot more of me, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of me. So kind of get those hints and know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm still doing my thing, and this is more so just in response while we're here to the X comment that was written to me on Sunday after the Illinois Indiana game, and I don't want to call the guy out directly or say anything that's degrading or whatever. But what I will say is, you know, people in my situation, and this is what's really challenging for some people to fully understand, is that people in my situation, they really don't have the same opportunities, or at least not all of them have the same opportunities to do what I do on a regular basis. And what I mean by that is their disability, whether they intended to or not, which a lot of the time it isn't intended. It's literally because of how they were, it's because of how they were born. They're not afforded the opportunities to do some of the things that I've been able to do. And I'm very, very understanding and very open about this sort of thing. So, I mean, I guess before we even get into the show, let me just kind of let me just kind of address all of this because it's very important I do this because not only am I speaking for me, I'm speaking for everyone that knows me, knows my work, and knows just who I am as a human being. And I think it's very important to note this because I my path has not been an easy path. It's as simple as that. And I'm gonna leave some of the particulars out, more so just for my own sanity and my own volition and whatever. But I'm just gonna address some of the things that I've had to go through. So I know I'm in a very rare position. Okay, I'm just gonna start there. I'm in a rare position to where I am essentially in my own verticals. I work for companies, but I essentially treat myself as an independent journalist. I make my own decisions of what I cover, who I cover, how I cover it, who I speak to, who I don't speak to, how I interact on social media, who I ignore, what pitches I accept. I'm very, very. I don't really have I'm just going to say this. I don't really have that middle ground where I'm essentially being told what to do, and I know not every single person has that experience, but I want to bring this up to tell you that the autonomous nature of what I do and the current and I guess the always physical circumstances that I've ever dealt with. It's one of the first times in my life, at least in my professional life, that I feel like I'm in a place mentally and emotionally where I'm happy. If you would have told me 10 years ago as I graduated high school that I would be working for myself and that I would be essentially covering everything that I've ever dreamed of covering, I would have asked, where do I sign on the dotted line? Because that's essentially what I've evolved into. So back to the controversy though, so it all kind of ties in, and then we can move on. And I know I've spent a considerable amount of time talking about this, but I figured it's important. When people say those things to me today, it doesn't phase me because I've heard it all before. But what it does tell me is, as a society, we really have a long way to go, and I think it sucks that I even have to say it. I think it sucks. I think it's terrible. I think it's inhumane. I really do. I think trolls on the internet have nothing better to do other than to tweet at random people that they would never say anything to their face, which you may be wondering, Zian, why end the argument here? I'm not going to, because I know tons of people who are in my position who message me all the time, meaning my position is in having a physical disability, who message me all the time asking me how I got to where I got to, how I currently do what I do, why I have such thick skin, why I don't take no from anyone, why I always just feel like doing my own thing is the most appropriate thing for me to do. And it's simple. It's because when you're told no as someone with a disability your entire life, and I'm not saying I'm one of those people, but tons of people have, when you're told no as someone with a disability your entire life that you can't do something or you can't amount to this or you can't accomplish something that is of the ever being inside of you to go do, it motivates you to want to say, yeah, I can run circles around you and I can kick your ass because that's the mentality that I wish more people had. Some people are not going to have their ideal perfect scenarios in life. And the purpose of me posting that was to show people that the business that we're in is not an easy business. And by the way, I'm just going to mention this too in a second. The business that I'm in is not an easy business. Okay, I do it for a few reasons. Number one, I'm good at the craft. It's what I went to school for. If I didn't go to school for this, I probably wouldn't be doing any of this. So number one, it's for the craft. Number two, it's for me to show that I am in the arena with the people that I'm supposed to be in the arena with. And people can correct me if you so choose. I'm almost positive that I'm the only journalist on the planet outside of maybe Jason Benetti, who's a very good broadcaster who happens to have the same disability that I do, that covers the stuff that I cover on a concurrent basis as someone in a wheelchair. I don't know of anybody else besides me who's doing what I'm currently doing. So everything that I say and all my opinions and all of the things that are, I guess you could say, in a trailblazer type fashion, I know I have to be careful with what I do and what I say because it could be perceived certain ways. The purpose of that was to show people that I'm going to be honest with you, 99% of everything I receive is positive. So the point in me posting it is, as a society, we need to do better. Plain and simple. In the workplace, in personal relationships with strangers, we need to do a lot better of a job of telling people that we care, not always thinking from a negative standpoint or connotation, and just to simply just be nice to people. It's not the end all be all to ruin somebody's day over a message of someone that you'll never see. And my point is if anyone has ever thought of the inkling to say something mean or disrespectful to anyone because they don't dress like them, or they don't look like them physically, or they have a disability, you just simply don't do it, because the reflection is not on that person. The reflection is on the person who says the act itself. And you know, I'm not going to say that the guy's a bad person, but what he said to me certainly was not in good faith. So my point in saying it is I'm standing up for everybody else who can't stand up, and I realize that I'm in a very unique position with everything that I do and who I'm influenced by and what my profession has allowed me to do over the last 6 to 7 years. And I just want people to know that A, I'm okay, and B, I really, really, really just hope in the future that the world can be a place where people feel like they're seen, heard, and valued by the people that they truly care about. And I just think it's simply is something to where I am certainly of the belief that people need to do better. People need to do better in society. And I'm also of the belief that, if you don't like the work that I do, or if you don't like the work any of these other people do, it's not you can choose to read and consume whatever you want. But to attack somebody's character and to say, derogatory things, or to use words in bad faith, it's not a good look. In 2026, we need to do a better job. Not just the comment that was received towards me, but of uh, anyone of a different ability, anyone that's being othered into something that they aren't. And you know I'm over it now, but I just wanted people to know that the struggle of being in sports media sometimes as someone with a disability, and someone who, is really, I mean, I'm just going to say it, I'm blazing my own path. I mean, there's some stuff that I genuinely, and I'm 26, I'll be 27 this September. There's stuff that I still don't know if I'm doing correctly for my own sake. And I'm learning every day, what I feel is important and what I feel isn't important. And it's just one of those things where it comes with the territory. It's a lot, but I just want people to be happy genuinely, and I just want people to understand that everybody has lives, and everybody is doing the best they possibly can. And I'm also in that same category too. And if you took away nothing from this little monologue that I spoke about here for about the last 15 minutes, whether you're watching or listening to this, just please, guys, do your part. If you see something that doesn't look right, say something. If you see someone that needs help, say something. If you see someone that needs a tap on the shoulder, tap them on the shoulder. It really could make their day. And with CP Awareness Day coming up and stuff, and all that, and World CP Day coming up in October, I want people to remember that everybody needs to be treated the same, regardless of their physical or cognitive challenges. And as someone who's from that community, I just want people to know that people can do a lot better of a job. And I hope that's the one thing that you guys take away from this. And I hope that if this inspires you to do something unbelievable in the next week or 2 weeks or 3 months, um, hopefully I was of service in that regard. Let's get into the show now, though, and I'm glad I was able to get that off my chest. Zan's overview. It's a big show this week. It's a heavy college basketball and combat sports episode. So, as simple as that. Let's get started with the biggest story of the week, in my opinion. Ronda Rousey is returning to MMA in the Hexagon under Most Valuable Promotions, and she is welcoming Gina Carano back to the sport. Gina Carano has not fought since 2009. Ronda Rousey obviously last fought in 2016, is the former UFC bantamweight champion of the world. It's on Netflix, May 16th. It's being promoted by Nikisa Badarian and Jake Paul. Their kickoff presser is on March 5th, which is the same day as the UFC 326 pre-fight press conference, which will be taking place in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. So really, biggest takeaway from this is a big deal. This is women's MMA coming full circle. Two of the most legendary female fighters of all time finally fighting. It should have happened in 2014. It didn't. But the circumstances for how this fight came to be is bothersome to me. Very bothersome. I watched Ronda Rousey's interview on SportsCenter, and it bugged the crap out of me. And the reason why it bugged the crap out of me is because it seemed like the fight was made out of desperation on the side of Carano. I don't know this for sure, and people can correct me, people can rip me on this all they want, but it seemed like from the way it was being perceived that Carano, it doesn't seem like she really has a full camp to do this, because it seemed like Ronda lended a hand and said, hey, I can help you train for this fight if need be. So there's something fishy going on that side. I don't know what that is, but for her to openly admit that on a platform like SportsCenter that's viewed by millions of people a day, I don't know if that was the smartest thing for her to do that. So there's that. That's number one. Number two, I'm curious as to who's on the undercard. I'm curious if it will be a traditional boxing undercard or if it'll be, an MMA event essentially where they're going to bring in prospects or former UFC veterans to fill the card that are no longer with the company. That's going to be very interesting. Also, Netflix. This is a huge development. I mean, Netflix is the biggest streamer on the planet. Some people are saying it's the biggest fight of the year. The UFC is going to have to deliver a similar type of fight in order to potentially overtake MVP, because if the UFC doesn't do that, I think the MVP show is going to be watched by way more people than the UFC White House card will. At least that's what some people are assuming might happen. So that's another element of this. And then, just also, if this is a one-off for both of these former legends, or if this is something where, Ronda at her age, if she wins, is she a player in MVP? Do they start a division, centered around her like the UFC did over a decade ago? Like, I think there's a lot of questions. I wonder if she's going to be a major player in the space. And if Gina Carano wins, maybe you do, some fun celebrity type fights with Carano, because let's be real, Rousey's experience far outweighs Carano. I mean, she went on to be a UFC superstar, and the UFC never signed Carano after the Strikeforce acquisition. So I don't know what to make of this. All I know is it's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be a spectacle. I wonder if it even happens. Some might be assuming that it's going to get canceled. I think it's. I'm one of those people that right now, unless proven otherwise at the press conference, I don't think this fight happens either. So I'm just going to say it now. It's exciting for the breaking news element. Everybody's talking about it, but I don't know. Given where both are at in their careers, if I were to make an early pick, I think Ronda destroys her. I think she wins within like 8 minutes, and she probably submits her, gets her in an armbar, as she patently did in the UFC for years. And I think she makes it easy. And by the way, somebody brought up a great point. Holly Holm is already boxing under MVP, having the winner fight Holly Holm in MMA. You get either Carano versus Holm, which is a fight that wasn't even remotely possible a decade ago, or you get the decade plus rematch in the making between Ronda and Holly, which was the biggest upset in women's MMA history back in November 2015. So the storyline is unbelievable. And then people were throwing around, oh, MVP should do this tour of UFC fights that can never get made, and do crazy stuff like Brock versus Fedor, which I think a lot of people would still watch that, even though Fedor is like 50 plus years old. I think I think people would still watch that. That fight was supposed to happen 16 years ago, and that didn't happen. Other examples that people were throwing around: Ngannou versus Jones, GSP versus Anderson Silva, and a bunch of others. So curious to see how this goes, but it will be at the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, California. Tickets go on sale very soon, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this fight a lot more. And in fact, at the time this is coming out, you can actually hear my reaction on Press Row with Nick Morganson and Callan McCord. They're going to be talking about that, or they did talk about that. So if you missed it, rather, go ahead and check out their latest edition of that live program. All right, the Big Ten men's basketball title race. Where the heck are we at? Well, where we're at is we've got two teams now who can realistically win the league thanks to losses by Nebraska and Wisconsin on Tuesday night. Wisconsin fell to Ohio State, and of course, Iowa upset Nebraska at home in Iowa City. So now it looks like it's a two-team race for the Big Ten with Michigan and Illinois. So here's what needs to happen. So Illinois is behind Michigan by a couple of games, and I'm pretty sure it's only two. So what needs to happen now is Illinois needs to win out, and ideally, Michigan needs to lose at least two games in the Big Ten, with one of them being to Illinois, for Illinois to have a shot to win the league. What is more likely to happen, though, is Illinois clinches a share of the Big Ten title. And the scenario I've seen is Illinois wins out, essentially, and Michigan loses one game. So with that, if you do the math, they'd be tied for first in that scenario, and that would include a head-to-head win for Illinois against Michigan next Friday. But yeah, essentially, what the Michigan win against Purdue means is they are in the driver's seat with about 2 weeks to go in the regular season for them to win the league title. So for Illinois, what they have to do now is they have to take care of business. It's as simple as that. They need to go in and they need to beat USC, or excuse me, at the time this is coming out, Illinois will have already played USC, so they'll be in the middle of their 2-game road trip. My apologies there. So with that said, assuming they go undefeated on the road trip, it gives them a week to prepare for Michigan, who's currently sitting at number 1 and still has a massive game against Duke looming. It looked like Michigan State was still in contention for the Big Ten title, but they lost a game to Wisconsin that, had they won that game, they'd still be in the mix. And Nebraska is taking themselves totally out of it now with losses to Purdue, Illinois, and now Iowa. So the best they can finish is probably third or fourth. And then, yeah, so it's a 2-team race down to Michigan and Illinois. And in about 8 days or so, Friday, February 27th, at State Farm Center, biggest game of the year on Fox. I'm going to be there. Michigan, Illinois. Michigan could still be number 1. Who knows where Illinois will be at, but assuming Illinois keeps winning, this Michigan game could be marquee as could be. And the only thing that's really preventing Illinois from winning it outright championship is a loss to the Wisconsin Badgers that was this past week in Champaign. So that's kind of where we sit in regards to the Big Ten men's basketball title race. All right, UFC Houston this Saturday. The UFC returns with a fight night card from Toyota Center. It's the return of Sean Strickland as he takes on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Let's take a look at the card itself, as we always do. It is a 5 p.m. Eastern start, only on Paramount Plus. It's a 14-fight card. Main event of the evening, as I just alluded to, Strickland versus Hernandez, 29-7 versus 15-2. In the main event, it's a 5-round fight. Of course, Sean Strickland is the former UFC middleweight champion. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape and who Tapology thinks might win. All right. Strickland is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He's currently sitting at a plus 210 underdog clip, while Anthony Hernandez is on a very nice win streak. He's at minus 250, fighting out of California, originally from Mexico. And both of these guys are out of some pretty good gems, too. Obviously, Anthony Hernandez is on MMA Gold, and Sean Strickland, who's the number 4 middleweight in the world. I forgot to add this is a 4 versus 5 matchup. He's out of Extreme Couture, which obviously is named after the legendary former multiple-time UFC world champion at light heavyweight and heavyweight, Randy Couture. All right, so let's take a look at this card overall. Some other fights on the card: Jeff Neal versus Euros Medic. And before we continue with that, though, I forgot to give my pick. I like Sean Strickland by TKO in round 4. I just think this is one of those fights where Sean Strickland needs to win. The middleweight division is crowded. You've got Nasruddin Imavov. You've got Kyle Bahayo. You've got Hamzat as the champion. You still have DDP in the mix. DDP just lost the belt. He obviously has history with DDP. He's now lost to DDP twice. This is a huge fight for Strickland. And for Hernandez, this is the feather in the cap. This is the fight where if he wins this, there is no denying, in my personal opinion, who is next for a shot at the middleweight title, regardless of if it's against Hamzat or if it's against somebody else. There's been rumblings that Hamzat may go to 205. If he doesn't go to 205, Hernandez versus Chimaev is going to be unbelievable. I think this is a chance to be one of the best fights of the entire year. I think this is one of those fights where if Strickland starts out like a bat out of hell, like he usually does, and starts throwing punches, it's going to get really interesting. If this fight drags to the later rounds, I think Strickland gets tired and he gets beat. So he'll have to finish Hernandez in order to win. I just think Strickland being out for a year, the whole suspension thing, Hernandez being a little bit more active in the last year, I think the fight is just, it's extremely interesting. And I think 5 rounds is perfect. Obviously, both guys have experience at this level before, but obviously, of course, with Strickland being the former champion, that also pays huge dividends as well. So I think Strickland gets it done, though. Again, as I said, round 4 TKO. But I also think, too, if Hernandez wins this fight, don't be surprised if Hernandez calls out the champion. The UFC needs to still at least announce what they're going to be doing in the second quarter of 2026. I think the winner of this fight could very well be in those plans, especially considering that the UFC has not announced the White House card as of yet. And I'm sure if Strickland wins, I'm sure he'd be very interested in fighting in front of President Donald Trump, as it seems based on social media that the two are pretty close friends. So we shall see what happens. The co-main event, as I was alluding to earlier, Jeff Neal versus Euros Medic. Dan Ige is on this card as well. Sergey Spivak is fighting Ante Dilia. Jacoby Smith, who everybody is talking about, all the hardcores are talking about, taking on Josiah Harrell. Someone's will have to go there. Both guys are 11-0. Zach Reese versus Michelle Pereira. When's the last time you saw Michelle Pereira in a boring fight? We've got Chiji Njokuani taking on Carlos Leal. That should be a good fight as well. Odie Osborne is back in action. Aiden Correa is taking on Louis Jarul, which I think Jarul, the jury is still out on how good he actually could be. So that'll be an interesting fight as well. Nora Cornell is back. And then, of course, if you look down the bottom of the card, we open the show with 2 interesting fights. Carly Judas versus Juliana Miller. This is probably a make or break fight for Miller, as she's currently sitting at 4-3 in mixed martial arts. And then, of course, we have 2 very interesting prospects. Yadir Del Valle, who's always in fun fights, taking on Jordan the Monkey King Levitt. So that is the card, 14 fights, again, 5 Eastern for the prelims, followed by the main card, which can be seen in its entirety on Paramount Plus. And I'm pretty sure the UFC is up for the next 8 weeks with cards. So lock in. The break is officially over. Welcome back to weekly Saturday fights. Speaking of Saturday fights, Ryan Garcia, Mario Barrios. This is on DAZN. I'm excited for this fight. You can get this fight included in your DAZN membership. At the beginning of the year, they had a package where if you got it, you got every fight on DAZN for free. So you can get this fight if you have that. I'm not even sure how much it costs because it's past now. Oh, you had to get it. It was the DAZN Ultimate Pass. You had to get it before a certain date, but I got it, so I'm going to get this fight. I'm excited for this fight because Barrios is a beast, and Barrios doesn't talk much trash either. Barrios is all systems go. He's going to come out and start firing on Garcia. Garcia's been out for a long time. Garcia, I just never know if his head is in the right place. So I don't know if this fight's going to go that well for him. I'm safely picking Mario Barrios here, but I'm not confident about it because Ryan Garcia, when his back is against the wall, he fights really well and he mixes up his combinations. But if Barrios is angry and if Barrios comes out like a man possessed to give Ryan Garcia a taste of his own medicine, which is virality, and he knocks out Garcia, it's going to be all over the internet for days. And a personal opinion. So I'm excited to see this. This is going to be a train wreck if I've ever seen one. And it's going head to head with UFC. So get ready for double screen action as well. I will be at the Bulls game against the Detroit Pistons, but I'm hoping that by the time the game is over, I will be able to catch this. Otherwise, I'll be watching it anyway. So looking forward to that as well. One thing I saw, there's been some speculation that Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan could consider themselves independent in the future by leaving the Big Ten. And my reaction to this is, college football is going in so many different directions that nothing surprises me anymore. So now you'd have some four major players in this: Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Notre Dame. You want to talk about making life easier for the college football playoff committee. This is sarcasm. I don't know if that will accomplish that. But it seems like Urban Meyer is in support of it. It seems like it's getting around the college football community, but I think it would ruin the mystique of what the Big Ten truly is, which is, to me, some of the best rivalries in the country, some of the best historical significant moments in college football history. And who knows? Even though Ohio State would still play Michigan, I think they'd lose out on some of their other luster. But then again, if they go independent, they could still, control their schedule and who it would want to play and stuff like that. So all this is very interesting. Again, this is only just a talking point right now. I'm not saying anything is official, but this is being thrown around by some college football analysts. So I figured I would just give my 2 cents. So in a nutshell, my 2 cents is if they do it, it's unsurprising. If they don't do it, I think it protects the integrity of the league. And then finally, IMG Academy was caught with some recruiting violations related to the drug cartel. This isn't really a surprise. I mean, they're a powerhouse high school athletics association that has rigorous academic requirements. How they let this one slip through the cracks, I have no idea. But what I can tell you is this is not going to be the first or last story you'll hear about one of these big-time private schools. They always find a way to funnel money any way they can. This is just simply another saga in the realm of the wild South, if you will, because they are in Florida, the wild South of high school football, and just money being thrown around at this point. I mean, some states now, NIL, for a 17, 18-year-old kid is legal, which is crazy to even talk about. I don't think it's healthy money management for high schoolers to be involved in NIL. College is different because you have people around you. But high school, you're still learning to fend for yourself. I guess you could say the same for college too, but you're not fully grown into, taking that next step to that next level. So it's all very interesting, and I'm curious to see what more comes of it and how it potentially changes the trajectory of the program as some of the best athletes on the planet have found their way through that institution. So all very, very interesting. But that's going to do it, though, for another edition of Bando's Breakdowns. This was episode 78. And actually, one last thing before we wrap up here. I meant to do this as well. Zain's errors. I actually did have an error this past week. I said that we went 10-3 on UFC Vegas 113. We actually went 9-4. So we are 23-14 going into UFC Houston. Hopefully that clears up any confusion that you guys might have had. I miscounted my correct picks, but now we have that all sorted. 23-14 going into UFC Houston. So thank you guys for your patience. With that, I usually say that I don't have errors, but this past week we did. Luckily today we did not, though. But speaking of all that stuff and so much more, just a few quick reminders before we get out of here. Please be sure to listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Acast, and so much more. Would be greatly appreciated if you checked it out. You can watch the show on YouTube, youtube.com/ETP Network. You can also watch the show on my personal YouTube channel, as I'm collaborated on every video that I am a part of within the network. So every episode of ETP Sports, every episode of this show, every episode of Football Forecast, and so much more. But if you just want Bando's Breakdowns, they're on my YouTube channel as well every single week. So don't you worry. It'll be up as soon as possible via collaboration. So if you just like only subscribing to me, don't worry. It'll be up there very, very soon. Then, of course, for sure, follow across social media at Bando's Breakdown. We just did a few new reels come out from last week's episode. So thank you all for engaging with those. I really appreciate it. We're going to keep that up. And, of course, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. All right, that's going to do it, though, for another edition of Bando's Breakdowns. This has been episode 78. My name is Zain Bando. For everybody at the ETP Network, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode. We will see you guys next week for episode 79. Right now, we tentatively have a scheduled guest planned for next week's show. Stay tuned to social media to find out who that is. Yet we have another interview to start a busy year on the show. But until next week, I will see you guys soon. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the unbelievable college basketball slate headlined by Duke and Michigan and Houston and Arizona, UFC, the Ryan Garcia fight, and so much more. Until next week, catch you guys soon. Have a good one. Enjoy the nice weather based on where you are in various parts of the country. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.